So there were all these last-minute changes in the agenda for this workshop, and yesterday I realized that I was supposed to give another talk for 15 minutes today, and a minute ago also reduced it to 10 minutes, and in this moment to 7.5, so I'm a mess. I tried to compile something last night, stuffed with emails, and so I thought it could be interesting to talk about community participation in research, and I think it fits well to the previous presentation about FishBase. I have a paper compiled a while ago. It's already ready to be submitted, and with the title Community Participation in Collecting Data for Research, Mobile Applications for the Angling Community Can Support Sustainable Management of Aquatic Resources and Biodiversity Research. Exactly the direction what you were asking us, and I thought I would quote some paragraphs from this paper. At present, those of you who are participating in my first presentation, I showed you the aqua maps from FishBase, and our nature resources to compile these maps are data from OBIS and GBIF. I guess that many of you know these initiatives. They are collecting occurrence records of all existing species and make them available for reuse and for any kind of purposes you can think about. And I think there's no doubt about that information on global species diversity is necessary to support the informed decisions. These are the maps which we produce with this data from OBIS and GBIF, and here we have also this pike version. This pike, we have also some data from the fish watcher. These data will greatly benefit if we could introduce occurrence data from the angling community, specifically in the freshwater area. We are quite weak. Marine is quite good covered, but in the freshwater area we will find only a very little share of species covered here in the point maps, in the computer-generated maps. So an additional issue is that we have very high cost if we are applying traditional surveys, and anglers are exploring water bodies which are beyond the reach of any scientific project. So community monitoring provides an alternative and potentially cost-effective way of extending recreational fisheries data collection, supporting ecosystem-based management approaches in biodiversity research. There are a lot of issues you have to consider when you're using this data, but primarily I think we should really focus to access these huge data sets. Anglers have gathered occurrence records for more than 100 years. I don't know if I have to go here into detail, but I just want to mention there's no doubt that anglers' data have great value beyond their application in managing global fish stocks alone in the context of anthropogenic impact and climate change. So what is citizen science for community participation? We have the Web 2.0, or now I think we are approaching Web 3.0 or whatever it is. And the audience in this web is made up of active users who generate their own content for sharing with selected groups or as a public at large in the World Wide Web. And these opportunities are great for gathering data for research, and this has actually become a reality. It's not just the future, it has become reality. And there are a lot of examples that citizen science has already been responsible for some notable natural history discoveries. Here are some examples for success stories in community participation. The bird watching day is a great success story. You probably all know about it. The bird watcher agreed to watch for birds one day a year. Could be different in different countries. In some countries it's a Christmas day. I think in Germany it's sometimes in spring. And bird watchers are sitting there with a mug of coffee and a binocular and a piece of paper, or in the future they will have a smartphone, they will type it immediately the records. Unfortunately, fish watching is not that easy. We have to catch the fish first, unfortunately, before we can submit an occurrence record. This makes it much more complicated, and that's why we need the data from the animal community. The bird watching can be done by your grandpa, your grandma, so it's different. We have sites such as eBird that can develop to facilitate online sharing of data, and they make their data actually available to the global community, and it could be interesting for the fish brain people to look at this. How do they deal with the issues like that it's not really a randomly recorded data set, or there are a lot of obstacles which prevents that you can use this right away in really serious research, and you have to tackle it. Maybe you get an idea of how they use this problem. Fly fishing community have become a biological recorder. They were asked by the British Natural History Museum. They are working together with Natural England in this UK biodiversity action planning, and they encouraged the fly fishing community, or part of the fly fishing community, to monitor the river flies. They're an important indicator for the condition of the freshwater, and they are producing really high quality data. If you are interested, you can look at the website which they are providing. Some other examples: cyber tracker monitoring wildlife in South Africa, and this has actually become a reality here. So the communities worldwide are participating. For Project NOAA, the community can submit any kind of observation of wildlife. And iceberg from the Open University UK, there we have some experts who can help amateurs identify anything what they were watching, and they can enter the correct data to one of these other community applications. Yeah, imagine we could illustrate the shift in abundance, biodiversity, biomass, or whatever you can think about, like we did here with the biomass of commercial species, comparing the biomass in tons per square kilometer in 1900 and today, 2000. It would look much better now. And this is very, let's say, a very nice illustration which will raise attention with decision makers. Show this kind of maps, that if you have sufficient data for fresh fish, freshwater fish, or marine resources, we would be able, over time, and if the ancient data can be raised as well, to show similar developments for maybe some species which we are interested in, target species. Now coming to the conclusions, I think it's a little bit more than 7.5. Community participation is a promising and efficient way to provide significant number of information for science. I think you all agree with this. ENGA have a great potential to become a strong partner in aquatic research, and please help us to find ways to guide the current records of FishBase. You can see already a lot of data popping up. Maybe we should introduce a fish watcher day. So all the anglers at a specific day report their data, just to make it a bit more pleasure. The Web 2.0, or 3.0, and smartphone technologies will make community participation to a success story. And please bear in mind that FishBase would have never become a comprehensive database without community participation. It's a big part of the story. And this is my last slide. I mentioned the fish ruler in my first presentation, or on the first day. It's different, but it's another kind of community participation. This is for the consumer. They get this fish ruler, and we have produced one version here for the Baltic and the North Sea, and show the The lengths, when these species are matured and the consumer can go to the market with this ruler, can measure the fish there, the cod, and can discuss with the mango fish handler, the fish is too small, have not yet had the chance to reproduce, I will buy, so on. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for your attention and open for questions anytime.